So my name is Emma Couch.
My name's Dakota Barclay.
My name is Caden Motiuk.
Samuel Miranda.
I'm M. Pugh.
My name is John Velasquez.
And I'm studying industrial organizational psychology. I'm hoping to work in human resources after I graduate.
I'm a strategic organizational communications major.
And my major is business finance.
Marketing major.
And I'm an apparel entrepreneurship major.
I'm a virtual design construction management, emphasizing architecture.
How many informational interviews have you completed?
I think around 15.
I've done 7 so far.
About, I would say 60.
I've completed about 100.
8.
I think it's at least 30.
How did you find people to have your informational interviews with?
I started through LinkedIn.
I use LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. I went through BYU-Idaho alumni because I found that they're so willing to help me.
You know, I connected to quite a few people on LinkedIn. I think at that point, about 8,000 people. And I always sent a note. And if people responded, I was like, hey, is it okay if I ask a few questions about the industry and things like this?
Build trust first and then be able to ask for an informational interview with them. And also referrals from other professors, of course.
Once I started doing informational interviews, I almost always would ask the person if they had anyone else I could talk to. So a lot of times they were referrals from other people.
What was the scariest part of the process, and how did you overcome it?
I think the scariest part could be just the beginning, when you're starting to talk to the person, where you have to like break the ice, build a relationship, because you don't know the person very well.
I think the scariest part is always just like either picking up the phone or like walking into their office.
Just wanting to make sure that they liked me, like building that rapport.
Having the initial guts to message random people, it's kind of like cold calling. I mean, you're really putting yourself out there.
They're a professional. I always feel like they're really busy. And I don't want to be a waste of their time.
What if they don't like the questions I ask? What if they don't think I'm qualified for the job? What if they don't like me as a person?
Just understand that there were students like you one day.
I think it just got better over time, so the more I did informational interviews, the better idea I had about how to begin them.
I usually have my notes and I usually have my question prepared ahead of time before even going to an informational interview.
How did the experience improve over time as you did more informational interviews?
So at the beginning, I would prepare a lot of questions, very specific ones, and kind of try to follow through them. Later on, I was able to kind of know the questions that I wanted to ask and branch off of those questions. I wouldn't just focus on, okay, I need to ask all those questions. I'll ask something, they would answer, and based on their answer, I'll ask something else. So it was a very, fluid conversation.
When I first started, I would just start pelting them with questions. But then over time, I learned that the most important part of the informational interview is making the connection.
I realized how I can do it, how I can make it better and be able to connect with people. And connection is pretty important in informational interviews. Staying connected with them gives more referrals and more opportunities for better informational interviews with them as well.
Because at the end of the day, I want them to be my mentor and I want them to be a friend that I have in the future. And so building in the first 5 minutes, I try to take that time to really build the relationship, get to know them, where they're from. And I found that my questions got a lot more specific over time versus at the beginning, it was more just, what do you do for work? Like, what's your day-to-day like? How are the hours? It was very like normal questions at the beginning. But then later it changed to, what do the departments look like? How do they interact with each other? Why did you choose this company over this other company? How is this skill used in your department? And so you can kind of narrow it down the more you learn.
What was the outcome of your informational interviews?
I got an internship next semester, so that's one thing.
I think it's also been able to help me narrow down what I specifically want to do. And a really cool thing was actually through LinkedIn and through setting up so many different informational interviews, I was actually able to be offered an internship for something that I'm interested in. I'm going into human resources, so it was because of those connections, those things that I already knew from these professionals that made it so I was more prepared for an interview with my internship.
Just making friends as well, hear about opportunities, job opportunities, internship opportunities, and some of them led to internships.
And at first I was really thinking I wanted to go to this program, but after interviewing, some of these people, I realized that the program probably wasn't the best fit for me. So it was a little disappointing to learn that, but I think really helpful in the long run. Now I can focus on researching some other programs. Now I know a little bit more what I'm looking for and what I'm not looking for in a program.
When I was really looking for an internship, I would never ask them for a job, right? Because that really puts you in an awkward relationship. But I would always, it would always come up that, you know, like, what are your future plans? And say like, well, I'm looking for an internship this summer. And sometimes I would ask them, like, if you were in my position, how would you go about applying for this company? And a lot of times that's a really good opener where you're not asking them for a job, you're just asking for advice. And a lot of times, a lot of them will be like, oh, you're applying for the job? Let me go message HR. Let me go send them an email. Or let me get your resume and I'll pass it along. Or even if it's not that, it could be, let me look at your resume and give you hints. Let me tell you about the application process so I can give you some help. Let me tell you about the recruiter so I can tell you like how to kind of negotiate that. And so they're really willing to help you. It's really awesome.
Originally, when I started them, like, I didn't really see very much traction. But because I was doing them so often, I was thinking about my career. I ended up just talking to like pretty much everyone I know about it. And I was talking to my boyfriend then, who's now my fiance, and he actually was thinking, and he realized he knew someone who worked at a bridal shop, and he kind of got me in contact with her. We talked, and I ended up giving her my resume, and then I got hired as an intern at that bridal shop, so I was able to complete an internship.
Do you have any advice for students who might want to do informational interviews?
It's okay if you're not perfect the whole time. I always feel like I'm a little awkward in informational interviews, but if I just take that pressure off myself, it's okay if you're a little awkward, a little nervous. Just take that first step, keep practicing.
Do it. Just do it. Don't be afraid.
I think that the earlier you can start, the better it's going to be. That way you kind of learn early on what to do, and then as you're doing them, you get better with every time.
You put your pride aside and like worried about what other people think about you, and you're really just trying to go out there and build relationships. Like the people that I've networked with, the people that I really like had those informational interviews with, they're my colleagues. They helped me get my job at Goldman Sachs. They're my boss. My boss asked me to be on his team. You're not just trying to use these people, but you're just trying to make friends that are like professional friends.
If you just reach to one person and expect that person to reply immediately to you, they might not even use LinkedIn anymore, so it might take forever. So reach out to quite a few people. And another thing is always try to post on your LinkedIn, because as you connect to people, a lot of them are going to take a look at your content. So what ended up happening towards my last few semesters is that people look at my content, and even without doing an informational interview, they'll ask me, hey, we have a position here, would you like to interview for it?
Always ask for some kind of homework assignment, some kind of follow-up.
Definitely utilize our alumni here on campus, because when you're starting out and you're trying to connect with these people, it can be really intimidating with all these people that don't even know you. But a lot of the alumni at school are pretty open to you reaching out to them and just like sharing a little bit about what they know.
If they gave me a name to talk to, I have another informational interview, and I go back to the first person and say like, hey, I talked to so-and-so, it was a great experience, here's what we talked about, thank you so much for referring them. Or if they recommended an article, I say, thank you so much for recommending the article, here are the top 3 things I've learned, here are 2 questions that I have, I would love to hop on another quick call with you and chat about it.